And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, broadcast on commercial radio stations from coast to coast on Sirius XM all across the North American continent, on Pacifica stations across America, Europe, and Africa, on American Forces Radio and every U.S. military base in the world, and your electronic device via TuneIn Progressive Voices in the Thom Hartmann app, and simulcast as television on both via Free Speech Television Network, on both Dish Network, DirecTV, and cable systems nationwide. So pleased to have you with us, and super pleased to have on the line with us Bill Ayers, the Distinguished Professor of Education, Senior University Scholar at the University of Illinois, member of the Executive Committee and Faculty Senate, and founder of the Small Schools Workshop and Center for Youth and Society. And he's got a new book. It's called Demand the Impossible. His website, of course, BillAyers.org. Bill, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's great to be with you. I'm in unideal circumstances because I'm in the Capitol trying to move across a couple million people, I think. So it's quite strange, but we'll do the best we can.
Yeah, it could be a challenge. I've been there, done that. So you've got this book out, Demand the Impossible. Tell us, the basic premise of Demand the Impossible. First of all, for people who don't know, you were very involved with SDS back in the 60s, early 70s, went off with the Weather Underground. And now are sort of I think of you as an elder statesman, as one of our wise elders with regard to movement politics in general. So, to your book in that context, Demand the Impossible.
Well, I find that characterization hilarious, but okay, I'll take it. I am old. I don't know about an elder statesman.
Well, I didn't mean it as a slam. I hope you didn't take it that way.
I understand. Well, I guess what I'd say about that simply is that I'm in the position of being a lifelong activist, and I'm still learning from the youth, and I find that to be the most refreshing thing of all. But the book itself, I set out to write it a couple of years ago, and the idea was to write a pamphlet. I often think that we know, those of us on the left, those of us who are progressive, radicals, revolutionaries, have a strong sense of what we're against, but sometimes we don't articulate what we're for. And, I wanted to set down some ideas about what I think we're fighting for. And that's what that was the origin of the book. And I remember 30 years ago in our living room, sitting with Albie Sachs, the great South African freedom fighter, and Rashid Khalibi, the great Palestinian scholar, the two of them in conversation. And Albie made a point that was very, very important. He said, at the height of the war against apartheid, we would take time out to sit back, take a couple of days of retreat with all the cadre and ask them, what are we fighting for? What is the society we dream about? Without doing that, we couldn't guide our own struggle in the here and now in the way we ought to. That stayed with me. I think we need to know what we're fighting for as well as what we're fighting against.
Yeah, well said. And by the way, I was thinking in the context of wise elder. My apologies.
I understand. I was just teasing you.
Because we're both kind of old farts here.
Tom, about the origin of the book. There's a bumper sticker that I see around Chicago often, and it says, if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention.
Yep.
And I always found that I was very sympathetic to that. But there's a bumper sticker we need to add to that, and that is the notion that if you're not guided by love and a vision of justice, you will go the wrong way. So yes, let's find the dialectic between being pissed off and being visionary. And in many ways, that was the motive for the book.
Yeah, and a brilliant one. And I love the way that you ended the book with the meditations on the American dream. And in fact, speak to that, please.
Well, I think it's very important as Americans, particularly the most powerful military nation on earth, a country that's been in decline in many ways economically, its influence in the world, but as a military power, quite unprecedented and unrivaled. And I think that we have to stop the kind of jingoistic, patriotic notion that we're special people above the law, above the standards that guide other people. And we have to think of ourselves as a nation among nations, a people among people. And I find the notion that American exceptionalism allows us to be the chosen people, the people who can violate all rules, all laws, all norms, and get away with it simply because we're the United States of America. I reject that, and I think we all should, in the interest of peace, balance, joy, justice, we should find a better way.
We're talking with Bill Ayers, legendary activist. BillAyers.org, his website. He's got a new book out. It's called "Demand the Impossible." It's a great read and an extraordinarily inspiring book. Bill, just earlier today, we actually watched this from the windows of our studio here. Downtown, there were a bunch of black bloc demonstrators, a bunch of people dressed in black who were running down the street, smashing windows, and the police went after them and they arrested them just down the street. We're on 14th. They were down on 12th when they finally caught up with them. And what would you say to those folks?
Well, I'm not sure I have any advice for those folks. I don't know. I didn't see it. I don't know. I think that what's most important today is to find all kinds of ways to unite, to resist what I think is an explicitly, by intention, and design, whether it realizes itself or not, an explicitly racist, white supremacist, and really crypto-fascist campaign. Donald Trump was just inaugurated. I think we have to find ways to unite the broad masses of people to oppose that administration and to not allow ourselves to be set back into the Middle Ages. So I'm very sympathetic to people who are outraged. And as I say, I think we need to temper our outrage with love and generosity. That's how we have to find ourselves building a movement, a broad social movement to fight for peace and an end to mass incarceration, universal health care, fully funded, fully resourced public schools, and on and on.
What are the best ways, in your opinion, to affect political and social change in the United States?
Well, I think we have to build a social movement, a broad social movement, and I don't think there's anything else that's ever really changed the country. I look backwards just slightly and you say, well, Lyndon Johnson was never a member of the Black Freedom Movement. He passed the most far-reaching civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. FDR was never part of the labor movement. Abraham Lincoln was never part of the abolitionist movement. And I think often we spend too much time staring at the sites of power that we have no access to, like the White House, like the medieval auction block that's called the Congress, and we don't spend enough time looking at the sites of power we have absolute access to: the classroom, the workplace, the neighborhood, the street. That's what I think we have to do. We have to gather, and sometimes people wonder, well, what's the best thing I can do in that regard? And my answer is, in a world as out of balance as this world, diving in somewhere is all we need to do. You don't have to pick the best thing. That'll paralyze you. What you have to do is open your eyes, act, and then doubt and keep moving. That's what builds social movements. We've been part of them in the past. History has surprised us in the past. It could surprise us again. And I think we have to, all of us, get busy.
In the conversation you and I had yesterday, you talked about doubt in a way that I thought was just absolutely profound. You want to riff on that a little?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think that the rhythm of activism is easy to say, but difficult to enact. And the rhythm of activism is you have to open your eyes and pay attention. If you're not paying attention, you can't understand what's going on in the world. Once you have opened your eyes, and this isn't a one-time thing, it's an every morning thing, then you have to be astonished at both the beauty and the ecstasy everywhere in the world, and also the injustices that we visit upon one another. Then you have to act. But after you act, you have to doubt. And if you don't doubt, then you're going to fall into the trap of dogmatism and sectarianism. And frankly, that's the trap that I'm most critical about when I think back to the late 1960s and the errors that the weather people made and others. We were caught in our own dogma. And I think doubt is a remedy to that. Doubt is an antidote to dogmatism. You have to be committed, but you can't give up your mind, and that means you have to rethink at all times.
Yeah, it's sort of like save us from those who are absolutely certain that their way is the only one true way.
Exactly, and that I think people on the left are very conscious of the dogma of Donald Trump or the dogma of the House Republicans. We need to be more sensitive to our own dogmas, and that's every one of us as an individual, and that's our movements as well. When we get set in a pattern where we think we know everything, then we can be quite certain that we're wrong.
We're talking to Bill Ayers. His new book is Demand the Impossible. His website, BillAyers.org. You can tweet him at William Ayers, Ayers. Bill, your meditations on the Trump presidency.
Well, I think, the important thing at this moment, on day one of the Trump presidency, is to note that he ran an explicitly, I think, crypto-fascist campaign. I think he ran a campaign that targeted vulnerable populations. He ran a campaign that criminalized entire people. He ran a campaign that advocated things that are terribly frightening and that do add up to fascism. For example, the toxic mixing of corporate and government and the disappearance of a robust public, a civil society. I think that's what he ran on. I think he ran on a platform of racism. And I think we have to resist all of that. I don't think we're starting from zero. I look at Black Lives Matter as the latest iteration in the centuries-old struggle for black freedom, and I'm inspired. I look at Undocumented and Unafraid, young people who have raised the issue and put it on the agenda. I look at the folks from Queer to the Left, the women's movement, Standing Rock, and I'm not only inspired, but I see where we need to dive in and make a difference. And all of us can. We can do simple things like gathering together in our neighborhood, on our street, asking ourselves, where are we on the clock of the world? Where are we in terms of resisting the targeting of vulnerable populations, resisting the shredding of our civil liberties? And we can talk to one another. I think that's where we begin.
Yeah. This is no time to give up. This is no time to check out. This is no time to spend the rest of the year watching cat videos on YouTube. It's time to get involved. Bill Ayres, one of my heroes, BillAyres.org, the website. You can tweet him at William Ayers. Bill, thanks so, and the new book is Demand the Impossible. Bill, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thom, I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Back at you. We'll be right back.